Keith Richards is 81 years old. He's been using drugs for over 60 years. Heroin, cocaine, LSD, everything. He's been electrocuted on stage. He fell out of a palm tree and cracked his skull open. He's overdosed multiple times. He's been in car crashes. He smoked cigarettes every day for decades until he quit at 74. By every scientific measure, Keith Richards should be dead. But he's not. He's still alive, still playing guitar, still touring with the Rolling Stones. Scientists have actually studied his DNA to figure out how he survived. And the answer is as crazy as the stories themselves. I'm about to tell you 10 times Keith Richards should have died and somehow didn't. Because Keith Richards isn't just a guitarist, he's a medical mystery. Before we dive into this insanity, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. These are the stories you won't hear anywhere else, and I need your support to keep digging them up. Let's start with the most famous story, the one everyone talks about but nobody knows if it's true. In 2007, Keith Richards gave an interview to NME magazine. The interviewer asked him about the craziest thing he'd ever done. Keith paused. Then he said something that made headlines around the world. He said he snorted his father's ashes. His father, Bert Richards, had died in 2002. Keith had him cremated. And according to Keith, he mixed the ashes with cocaine and snorted them. The world went insane. News outlets everywhere ran the story. Keith Richards snorted his dead father. A few days later, Keith's publicist tried to walk it back. They said he was joking, but then Keith gave another interview. He confirmed it. He said he did it, just a little bit, mixed with cocaine.
It is true. The snorting of your father's ashes. But it is true. You did, in fact, do it.
I ingested my ancestor, yes.
To this day, people debate whether it's true. But here's the thing about Keith Richards. With him, you can never tell where the truth ends and the legend begins. And honestly, based on everything else he's done, snorting his father's ashes is probably the least crazy thing on this list. Number 1, 1973. Keith Richards is in Switzerland. He's been using heroin for years at this point. Heavy use, multiple times a day. He's addicted badly. The Rolling Stones have a tour coming up. Keith knows he can't perform like this. He's too strung out. So he checks into a clinic in Lausanne, the Union Medical Maison. He's not going there to get clean. He's going there to get his blood cleaned. Keith undergoes a procedure called hemodialysis. It's a blood filtering process. They remove the dirty blood full of toxins and replace it with clean blood. It's not a complete transfusion. But it's close, it's dangerous. People have died from it, but for Keith, it's a shortcut. Flush out the heroin, do the tour, then go back to using. And that's exactly what he did. He's talked about this procedure in his autobiography, Life. He said it wasn't a full blood swap, but they did exchange dirty blood for clean. The treatment worked, he did the tour, then he went right back to heroin. Number 2. 1967. Keith Richards is at his home in Redlands, England. It's a Sunday afternoon. The police raid the house. They're looking for drugs, and they find them. Marijuana, pills. The police arrest Keith, Mick Jagger, and their friend Robert Fraser. The media goes crazy. The Rolling Stones are drug users. This is a scandal. Keith and Mick are put on trial. Keith is sentenced to 1 year in prison. 1 year. For cannabis and pills. He spends one night in Wormwood Scrubs prison, just one night. Then his lawyer appeals, the conviction is overturned, Keith walks free. But here's what people don't talk about. That one night in prison almost killed him. Keith was going through withdrawal, cold turkey, no heroin, no pills, nothing, in a cell, alone. He was shaking, sweating, hallucinating. He said later he thought he was going to die. If the appeal hadn't gone through, if he'd stayed in prison for a full year going through withdrawal, he probably wouldn't have survived. Heroin withdrawal in a British prison in 1967 could be a death sentence. Keith got lucky. One night, that's all it took. Number 3. 1977. The Rolling Stones are in Toronto. Keith Richards has been arrested again. This time it's serious, really serious, possession of heroin, 22 grams. That's not personal use, that's dealer-level quantity. In Canada, this is a federal offense. Keith could go to prison for years, maybe decades. The Canadian government wants to make an example of him. The trial drags on for months. Keith's lawyers fight hard. They bring in expert witnesses, doctors, addiction specialists. They argue that Keith is sick, not a criminal. Then something unexpected happens. Blind fans start writing letters to the judge, hundreds of letters. They say Keith's music helped them. They say he shouldn't go to prison, he should get help. The judge listens. In the end, Keith is found guilty. But instead of prison, the judge gives him a suspended sentence with one condition. Keith has to perform a benefit concert for the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. Keith does the concert, he plays acoustic guitar. He's probably high the entire time, but he does it, and he stays out of prison. If that judge had been stricter, if Keith had gone to a Canadian prison in 1977 with heroin in his system, he wouldn't have made it out alive. Number 4, 1998. Keith Richards is at his home in Connecticut. He's in his library. He has a huge collection of books, rare editions, first printings. He's reaching for a book on a high shelf. He's standing on a ladder. The ladder tips. Keith falls. He hits his head hard. He's knocked unconscious. His wife, Patty Hansen, calls an ambulance. Keith wakes up in the hospital, concussion, fractured skull. He's in bad shape. The doctors tell him he needs to rest. No performing, no touring. Keith ignores them. A few weeks later, he's back on stage with the Rolling Stones. He plays a full 2-hour set. The doctor said most people his age would have serious complications from that kind of fall. Keith just brushed it off. He said it was nothing. That's Keith Richards. A fractured skull is nothing. Number 5, 2006. Keith Richards is on vacation in Fiji. He's 62 years old. He's staying at a resort. He decides to climb a palm tree. Why? Nobody knows. That's just Keith. He climbs the tree. He's almost at the top, then he slips. He falls 15 feet. He lands on his head. He's knocked unconscious immediately. His security team rushes him to a hospital in Fiji. The doctors there aren't equipped for this kind of injury. They airlift him to New Zealand. Keith needs emergency brain surgery. He has a subdural hematoma, a blood clot on his brain. If they don't operate immediately, he'll die. The surgeons drill a hole in his skull. They drain the blood clot. Keith survives. 3 months later, he's back on tour with the Rolling Stones. He joked about it later. He said he didn't even remember the fall. The doctor said he's the luckiest man they'd ever seen. Most people don't survive a fall like that, especially not at 62. Especially not with decades of drug use in their system. Keith did, and he was back on stage like nothing happened. Number 6, early 1970s. Keith Richards is on tour with the Rolling Stones. He's using heroin every single day, heavily. He's also drinking, a lot. The combination is deadly. After one show, Keith goes back to his hotel. He's doing drugs. He shoots up too much, way too much. He overdoses. He collapses. He stops breathing. The people around him panic. They call for the band's doctor. The doctor arrives with emergency medication. Keith is barely alive. His heart is weak. His breathing is stopped. They manage to revive him. Keith comes back. He's confused, disoriented, but he's alive. This wasn't a one-time thing. Keith overdosed multiple times throughout the 1970s. Each time, somehow, he came back. Most people don't survive one heroin overdose. Keith survived several. His body just refused to quit. Number 7, 1975. The Rolling Stones are at the peak of their excess. Parties, drugs, violence. Keith is at a party. Things get out of control. There's a fight. Someone pulls a knife. Keith gets stabbed. It's not deep, but it's serious enough. He's bleeding. He needs stitches. But Keith doesn't go to the hospital right away. He finishes the party first. Then, hours later, he finally goes to get stitched up. The doctors are shocked. They tell him the wound could have gotten infected. He could have bled out. Keith just shrugs. He said later it was just another night. Getting stabbed at a party was normal for him in the 70s. That's how extreme his life was. A stabbing was just an inconvenience. Number 8, early 1970s. The Rolling Stones are performing. Keith is on stage playing his guitar. The stage is wet. Water has been spilled. Keith steps in a puddle. His guitar is plugged into an amplifier. The amplifier isn't grounded properly. The electricity runs through the guitar, through the strings, straight into Keith's hands. He's electrocuted. Thrown backwards, he hits the ground. He's unconscious. The crowd doesn't know what's happening. The band stops playing. Roadies rush onto the stage. They check Keith. He's alive, barely. His hands are burned. He can't feel his fingers. They carry him off stage. He wakes up a few minutes later. The doctors tell him he's lucky. The voltage could have stopped his heart. Keith rests for about a day. Then he's back on stage. His hands are bandaged, but he's playing. He said the shock actually felt kind of good, like a reset button. Only Keith Richards would say getting electrocuted felt good. Number 9, 1980s. Keith Richards is still using heroin, but now he's also using massive amounts of cocaine. He's mixing them, speedballs, heroin to come down, cocaine to go up. This is one of the deadliest drug combinations in existence. John Belushi died from a speedball. Chris Farley died from a speedball. River Phoenix died from a speedball. Keith did speedballs for years, multiple times a day. His heart should have exploded, his brain should have hemorrhaged, but neither happened. In 2010, scientists actually studied Keith's genetics. They wanted to understand how he survived. They found something remarkable. Keith has genetic mutations. His liver processes toxins more efficiently than most people. His heart is structurally stronger than average. He's literally built different. That's not luck, that's biology. Keith Richards won the genetic lottery. His body can handle what would kill almost anyone else. Number 10, late 1980s. Keith is driving. He's been drinking heavily. He's also probably on something else. He's speeding. He loses control of the car. The car crashes. Hard, metal twists, glass shatters. Keith is thrown around inside. When the police arrive, they expect to find a body. Instead, they find Keith. He's bruised, he's cut, but he's conscious, he's talking. The car is totaled, completely destroyed. But Keith walks away. Minor injuries, nothing serious. The police can't believe it. Keith just laughs. He said, crashes were part of the lifestyle. You drive fast, you crash, you survive, you keep going. For Keith, a car crash was just another Tuesday. So how is Keith Richards still alive? Honestly, nobody knows for sure. Doctors have theories. The genetic mutations help. His liver and heart are abnormally resilient, but there's something else. Keith has never stopped moving. He's always on tour, always playing. His body doesn't have time to shut down. Some people think it's pure luck. Some think he made a deal with the devil. Keith himself has a simpler explanation. He says he never did drugs to escape. He did them to enhance life. He never wanted to die. He wanted to live harder. And somehow, against every odd, it worked. Keith Richards has survived everything: drugs, falls, stabbings, electrocution, overdoses, crashes, prison. He's outlived almost everyone from his generation. Brian Jones is dead. Jimi Hendrix is dead. Janis Joplin is dead. Jim Morrison is dead. John Bonham is dead. Bon Scott is dead. But Keith Richards is still here, still playing, still touring, still alive. He's not just a rock star. He's a phenomenon, a medical impossibility, the man who refuses to die. If this story blew your mind, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. I've got more insane rock stories coming your way. And if you want to see the opposite of survival, check out my video on Leonard Skynerd and the plane crash that killed the band. Sometimes luck runs out, but not for Keith Richards. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.